When orcs invaded, King Kong, Godzilla, and the military fought back. People hurried along the streets, carrying coffee cups and briefcases, unaware that in less than an hour their lives would change forever. High above the ocean, something unnatural stirred. Dark shapes moved through the sky, larger than any aircraft. At first, many thought it was a weather phenomenon or some kind of military experiment gone wrong. But soon the shapes grew closer and the truth became horrifyingly clear. Massive, armored flying ships, bristling with spikes and strange glowing engines, were heading straight for the city. The first orc ship struck without warning. Enormous green-skinned warriors poured from the sky, leaping from their ships onto the rooftops. Their armor was jagged and black, their eyes glowing red with a cruel hunger. Civilians screamed and scattered. Cars crashed as drivers tried to escape the streets, while buildings shook as the orcs tore through them with terrifying strength. Lieutenant Marcus Hale of the city's National Guard radioed for backup, his voice trembling. "All units, report. We're under heavy attack. Civilians are trapped in downtown sectors." But the military response was slow. No one had seen anything like this before. Standard rifles and tanks barely made a dent in the orc forces. The invaders were too fast, too strong, and too intelligent. They worked in squads, flanking human soldiers, cutting off escape routes, and capturing civilians for reasons unknown. In the chaos, small acts of human ingenuity began to shine. Sergeant Elena Ruiz led her team into a narrow alley where a group of orcs had cornered a family of 4. Using only rubble and a few smoke grenades, Elena and her squad created a trap. The orcs charged but slipped and stumbled over the debris. The humans seized the moment, firing precise shots to drive the invaders back. The family ran to safety. Even amid panic, humans were showing the first signs of what made them truly remarkable: courage, adaptability, and a willingness to fight against impossible odds. Meanwhile, across the ocean, scientists and military leaders were observing the attacks in disbelief. Dr. Samuel Greaves, a leading xenobiologist, stared at the screens in his lab, mumbling to himself. It's not just an invasion. They're looking for something or someone. And I think it's attracting them. Greaves tapped his console rapidly, bringing up seismic readings and ancient tracking data. "There," he said, pointing to the ocean near Skull Island. "There's a pattern of activity. Something huge is stirring." King Kong, it's calling him. The military command was divided. Some generals argued that releasing Kong would be too dangerous. "We don't control him," one officer said sharply. "He's a giant ape. He could destroy cities just as easily as the orcs." "But Dr." Greaves countered, his voice urgent. "He's our only hope. Kong has fought intelligent threats before, and if the orcs have magic and technology combined, we need all the help we can get." As the argument raged, the situation in San Harbor worsened. Orcs overran the city's power grid, cutting electricity and communications. Fire spread through buildings, and smoke choked the streets. The civilians who hadn't yet fled were trapped, and the human soldiers were exhausted and outgunned. Then came the first sign that humans were not entirely alone. From the ocean, a dark, massive silhouette appeared, moving with a slow, deliberate power. Ships rocked and splashed as the creature surfaced. Godzilla had awakened, drawn by the disturbance. His enormous eyes scanned the horizon, and his tail lashed the water with destructive force. Across the sea, helicopters scrambled to get a better view. "Sir," one pilot reported, it's huge, bigger than anything we've ever seen, and it's heading for the city, Doctor." Greaves' voice was steady now, full of grim determination. "We have no time to waste. Notify the Skull Island team. King Kong must be released immediately." Far to the west, on the dense, mist-covered Skull Island, a team of researchers approached a massive enclosure. Inside, Kong was restless, pacing, his massive fists pounding the ground. When the team opened the gates, he paused for a moment, sizing up the humans, then roared, a sound that shook the jungle and echoed across the mountains. He knew something was coming. Back in Sand Harbor, the battle intensified. Orcs had learned quickly, using captured military vehicles to attack human positions. Tanks exploded, helicopters fell from the sky, and soldiers fought desperately to protect civilians. It was in these moments that small teams of humans showed the brilliance that would later define the HFY legend. Lieutenant Hale's squad, pinned behind a crumbling building, noticed that the Orcs were avoiding the subway tunnels. Using this knowledge, they led a group of trapped civilians underground, navigating the dark tunnels while avoiding patrols. Elena Ruiz, from her elevated rooftop, directed traffic and guided humans to safety. She rigged makeshift explosives to collapse stairways after the civilians passed, slowing the Orcs' pursuit. Outside the city, Godzilla's massive form reached the shore. He did not attack immediately. Instead, he unleashed a deep roar, sending shockwaves that knocked several Orcs off their feet. Humans watched from a distance, awe and fear in equal measure. It was clear that this creature, though terrifying, was not inherently hostile toward humanity. By late afternoon, news of Kong's release had reached military command. A convoy of ships and helicopters made its way toward Skull Island to coordinate. The moment the giant ape saw the ships approaching, he understood his mission. With a powerful roar, he leapt into action, racing toward the waiting helicopters and boats. Kong's arrival in Sand Harbor changed the battlefield instantly. Orcs, previously unstoppable, were thrown into confusion. Their formation broke as the massive ape tore through their ranks, smashing war machines and hurling enemies aside with unmatched strength. The city trembled under every step he took, yet even Kong could not manage the Orcs alone. They adapted quickly, using heavy siege weapons and magical fire to push back. It became clear that brute force alone would not be enough. Humans had to step up, working with the Titans in ways never imagined before. In one remarkable scene, a team of engineers rigged a crane to hurl massive concrete blocks at Orc reinforcements, while soldiers directed Kong toward strategic targets. Another squad used a hacked Orc communication device to confuse the invaders, turning their own tactics against them. These moments were small but significant, proof that human intelligence and courage could match the raw power of giants. By evening, the city was partially in ruins, smoke rising into the sky, and fires casting an orange glow across shattered streets. But the humans had survived the first wave. Civilians were evacuated, and the Orcs were forced to regroup outside the city limits. The military, now fully aware of the threat's scale, began preparing for a larger counterattack, coordinating plans with Godzilla and Kong. Lieutenant Hale, exhausted and bloodied, surveyed the destruction. He knew this was only the beginning. "We stopped them for now," he said quietly to Elena, "but they'll be back, and next time it will be worse." In the Pacific, Godzilla swam silently beneath the waves, watching. On Skull Island, Kong beat his chest, roaring into the night. And across the globe, military command worked feverishly, coordinating the largest defense Earth had ever seen. One thing was certain: the Orcs had underestimated humanity, and humans were about to show why they were never to be taken lightly. The first battle was won, but the war had only just begun. The Orcs were relentless, powerful, and cunning, but humans had intelligence, courage, and now allies of unimaginable strength. Together, they would fight back. And for the first time, the world caught a glimpse of a truth long ignored. When humans and giants stood together, nothing could break them. The night ended with quiet tension. Fires burned in the ruins, the sound of distant Orc drums echoing through the mountains. But somewhere in the darkness, hope remained. A hope born from courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to fight even against impossible odds. And that hope was just the beginning of humanity's stand against the invading Orcs. The morning after the first attack, Sand Harbor was a city of ruins. Smoke still rose from collapsed buildings, and the streets were littered with debris. Civilians had been evacuated, but soldiers patrolled cautiously, knowing the Orcs were still out there, regrouping and planning their next strike. Lieutenant Marcus Hale walked through the streets with Sergeant Elena Ruiz. "It's worse than I thought," Marcus said, scanning the damage. "They'll be back, and next time it won't just be a raid, it will be a full assault." Elena nodded, her face hard and determined. "Then we'll be ready. We have Kong now, and Godzilla is on his way. We just have to coordinate properly." Meanwhile, in the ocean, Godzilla moved toward the city, his massive tail cutting through waves. Underwater sensors picked up large Orc warships approaching from the north, bristling with cannons and magical engines. The creature's eyes glowed as he sensed the enemy, and he let out a low, resonant roar. The sound vibrated through the water and the coastline, warning the Orcs of the danger approaching. At Skull Island, Kong was already moving. He had begun to learn the human signals, understanding the areas where he needed to strike. Helicopters hovered above, guiding him toward strategic targets. He smashed through forests, tearing apart enemy fortifications that had been set up by Orc scouts. Even alone, Kong was a force of nature, but the humans knew that coordination was the key to victory. Back on land, General Lawson convened a command meeting in a temporary operations center. Maps of the city and surrounding coastline were spread across tables. Soldiers, engineers, and scientists debated how to use the Titans effectively. Dr. Samuel Greaves spoke urgently. "The Orcs are not just brutes, they are intelligent. They have strategies and adapt quickly. If we rely only on Kong and Godzilla, we risk losing the city again. We need human ingenuity to complement their power." The plan was bold. Engineers created electromagnetic nets to trap Orc war machines, while soldiers prepared heavy artillery and precision missile strikes to target Orc leaders. Small teams of humans were trained to coordinate with Kong and Godzilla, guiding the Titans toward the most dangerous threats. As the Orc forces advanced, they revealed an unexpected level of coordination. Flying siege ships circled above, dropping elite squads and heavy weaponry. Orcs on the ground used captured tanks and advanced siege machines, striking at the human positions with deadly efficiency. The first major clash began in the outskirts of the city, where a squadron of Orc warships tried to land reinforcements. Godzilla rose from the water with a thunderous roar. His atomic breath shot out, melting the steel and magic-infused armor of the Orc warships. They exploded in fiery bursts, scattering debris across the bay. Orcs who survived the initial blast ran for cover, but soldiers and Kong were ready. Kong smashed through the streets, his massive fists knocking Orc war machines aside like toys. Trees were uprooted and buildings shook with every step. The humans followed, guiding him toward targets where his strength could be most effective. But the Orcs adapted quickly. They deployed magical creatures and biological horrors that leaped out from the shadows. Swarms of smaller, faster Orcs attacked from blind spots, forcing humans and Titans alike to remain alert. Sergeant Elena Ruiz led a team of engineers who had devised a clever plan. They set up a crane to hurl massive concrete slabs at approaching war machines. At the same time, a hacker team interfered with the Orc communication network, causing confusion among the invaders. Orc squads hesitated, unsure of orders, giving Kong and Godzilla openings to strike. Even so, the battle was brutal. Kong took a massive blow to his side from a magical cannon, sending him crashing into a building. Dust and debris filled the air, and for a moment, it seemed the Titan could be overwhelmed. But humans did not hesitate. A team of soldiers rigged explosives under the debris, creating a controlled collapse that distracted the Orcs and allowed Kong to recover. Meanwhile, Godzilla faced a fleet of Orc warships approaching from the north. His tail smashed multiple ships at once, sending them careening into one another. His atomic breath destroyed others in a continuous stream of fire. Humans aboard smaller boats coordinated artillery strikes, hitting enemy formations with deadly precision. Amid the chaos, small human teams achieved remarkable feats of bravery. One squad rescued dozens of civilians trapped in a collapsing hospital, while another defused a magical bomb planted by Orc sorcerers. Lieutenant Hale and Sergeant Ruiz worked together, coordinating human and Titan actions. Despite these victories, the Orcs revealed a terrifying new weapon, a massive war golem. Standing at least 3 times the height of Kong, covered in black metal plates and glowing runes, it smashed through anything in its path. Its first step sent shockwaves across the battlefield, toppling walls and vehicles. Even Kong and Godzilla struggled to contain it. The humans realized they needed a more sophisticated strategy. Teams worked tirelessly, combining technology, intelligence, and brute force. Electromagnetic nets were modified to slow the golem's movements, while soldiers targeted weak points in its armor. Kong and Godzilla coordinated attacks, forcing the golem to expose vulnerable areas. Sergeant Ruiz led a daring operation. Using a combination of explosives and human ingenuity, her team lured smaller orc reinforcements away from the golem, isolating it for the Titans. The plan was risky. One misstep could cost hundreds of lives. As the day progressed, the battlefield became a swirling chaos of Titans, orcs, humans, and machines. Fires raged across the city, smoke obscured vision, and the ground trembled with each giant step. But through it all, humans continued to fight, showing courage and adaptability in the face of overwhelming odds. By evening, the humans and Titans had managed to push the orcs back, but the war was far from over. The war golem had been wounded but not destroyed, retreating with the orc forces. Orcs regrouped in fortified positions outside the city, preparing for a new assault. In a quiet moment after the battle, Lieutenant Hale and Sergeant Ruiz surveyed the destruction. "We did it," Marcus said, but his voice lacked celebration. "But at what cost? They're stronger than we thought." Elena nodded. "We have Godzilla and Kong on our side now, but next time they'll come with more than just brute force. They'll come with strategy, magic, and machines. We need to be ready." Meanwhile, Kong returned to Skull Island to recover, his massive body bearing wounds from the battle. Godzilla submerged into the ocean, his eyes glowing as he sensed the orcs retreat. Both Titans had fought bravely, but humans had made the difference. Their intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness had turned the tide. Dr. Greaves addressed the military command late that night. "We've seen today what humans can do when paired with the Titans. But the orcs are still out there, and they're learning. We must develop new strategies, new weapons, and continue to coordinate with Kong and Godzilla. Humanity has shown it can rise to any challenge, but this war is far from over." Back in the city, civilians returned cautiously, rebuilding what they could. Stories spread of brave human squads guiding Kong, hacking orc networks, and saving countless lives. The legend of human courage began to grow, a spark of hope in a world threatened by monsters. The orcs, meanwhile, retreated to their dark fortresses, their leaders furious at being outmaneuvered by both humans and Titans. They began planning a new, deadlier assault. One of their war chiefs, a massive orc with glowing red eyes, muttered to his lieutenants, "Next time they will not escape. The humans are clever, yes, but we will break them. And the Titans, we will control them or destroy them." As night fell over Sand Harbor, the city was scarred but not broken. Fires still burned in some ruins, and the distant sound of sirens mixed with the low growl of distant monsters. Humans slept in shifts, prepared for the next attack, determined to survive. Lieutenant Hale looked at the stars, thinking of the battles yet to come. "We've learned something today," he said to Elena. "We're not helpless. We're smart, resourceful, and we fight. That's what makes us human. That's what will make the difference in the battles ahead." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "And we won't fight alone. Kong, Godzilla, and us together will make sure Earth doesn't fall, no matter what they throw at us." The night ended with a mixture of hope and tension. Orcs were planning, the Titans were recovering, and humans were preparing. But one truth had become clear: humanity was not defenseless. Brains, courage, and determination could match even the greatest physical power. And as the wind carried the distant roars of Titans across the ruins of Sand Harbor, one thing was certain: the next wave of the war would be even more dangerous, but humans and their allies would face it together. The battle had been fierce, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had shown its strength, not just in muscle or weapons, but in its heart, mind, and unyielding spirit. And that spirit would be the key to survival in the battles to come. The sun had barely risen when the military command received new reports. Orc warships and reinforcements were gathering in a massive canyon fortress far inland. It was the largest concentration of Orc forces yet, and their newest weapon, the war golem, had returned, even stronger than before. Lieutenant Marcus Hale and Sergeant Alina Ruiz stood before a giant map of the battlefield. Red markers indicated enemy positions, blue represented human and Titan forces. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice steady but grim. "If they break through here, they'll spread across the country. We have to stop them now." Alina studied the map. "We know their tactics now. They're strong but predictable. We combine humans, Kong, and Godzilla. We can trap that golem and the rest of the army. But we'll need precision. No mistakes." Far away, Kong was resting on Skull Island, his massive chest rising and falling. He bore the wounds from the previous battle, but his eyes glowed with determination. Helicopters hovered nearby, providing medical aid and supplies. Meanwhile, Godzilla swam beneath the ocean, sensing the Orcs' movement. Both Titans were ready. The humans' plan was daring. They would divide the Orc forces. Kong would lure the golem and the main army into a canyon trap, while Godzilla blocked reinforcements arriving by river and destroyed the Orc siege ships. Human squads, using newly developed tactical equipment, would disable magical devices and target Orc commanders with precision strikes. The battlefield came alive as the first Orc scouts arrived. They were met immediately by human squads armed with electromagnetic nets, explosives, and small armored vehicles. Soldiers darted from cover to cover, hacking into Orc networks and disabling war machines. The Orcs were strong and smart, but humans had learned from the previous battles. Their strategy was precise and deadly. Kong appeared on the horizon, a colossal figure moving with purpose. Orcs on the ground froze, unsure whether to flee or fight. With a roar that echoed through the canyon, Kong charged forward, smashing through the first line of Orc defenses. Trees, boulders, and vehicles were crushed under his fists. Orcs who survived ran for cover, only to be struck down by humans using advanced weapons in coordination with Kong's attacks. In the river, Godzilla rose from the depths. His atomic breath destroyed warships attempting to flank the canyon. Waves crashed against the cliffs as his tail smashed Orc boats into pieces. Humans on land directed artillery toward weakened targets, ensuring the Titans' attacks were more effective. But the Orcs were not done. Their commanders unleashed dark magic and powerful war beasts. Enormous Orc wargs charged at human squads, while sorcerers hurled fire and energy blasts at the Titans. One massive warg leapt at Kong, sinking its teeth into his arm. Kong roared in pain but smashed the creature aside, shaking the ground with the force of his movements. Sergeant Alina Ruiz led a team on a daring mission. Using grappling hooks and explosives, they climbed the cliffs of the canyon, infiltrating Orc fortifications from above. They destroyed magical amplifiers, cutting off the Orcs' power supply. Soldiers fired precise shots at commanders, turning the tide of the battle in humans' favor. The war golem emerged from the shadows, taller and deadlier than before. Its glowing runes pulsed with energy as it smashed through human defenses. Kong charged at it, swinging his fists and grappling with the massive creature. Rocks and debris flew in every direction. Godzilla joined, attacking from the side, blasting atomic fire into the golem's chest. Sparks and molten metal rained down as the Titans fought with all their strength. Even as the Titans clashed with the golem, humans played a crucial role. They had set traps in the canyon, giant pits lined with explosives, nets that could slow the golem's movements, and precision-guided missiles aimed at weak points in its armor. Lieutenant Hale coordinated the attacks from a command post, directing Kong's and Godzilla's movements to exploit every weakness. A small human squad, led by Sergeant Ruiz, climbed atop a cliff overlooking the battlefield. They planted the final explosives in the canyon trap. "This is it," Alina said into her radio. "Once the Titans lure the golem here, we detonate everything. Timing is everything." Kong bellowed a roar and the golem charged after him, crashing through rocks and orc troops alike. Godzilla cut off escape routes, forcing the golem and the remaining orc army into the canyon. Humans held their positions, ready to trigger the trap. The battle reached its peak intensity. Kong grappled with the golem, smashing it into canyon walls. Godzilla fired continuous streams of atomic breath, preventing orc reinforcements from interfering. Orcs tried to use dark magic to revive the golem or summon more beasts, but human squads disabled the magical amplifiers just in time. Then came the moment of truth. Lieutenant Hale gave the signal. Explosives detonated across the canyon, collapsing parts of the cliffs and setting off massive shockwaves. The golem screamed as it was buried under falling rock, its glowing runes extinguished. Orc soldiers were trapped or thrown into disarray. Kong and Godzilla roared in unison, shaking the canyon with their victory. The humans pressed the advantage. They moved quickly to eliminate remaining orc forces, using both conventional weapons and strategic strikes. Soldiers rescued trapped civilians, guided by the Titans' movements. Engineers dismantled magical devices and destroyed remaining siege machines. Every act of courage and intelligence turned the battle further in humanity's favor. By late afternoon, the orc army was broken. Survivors fled into the mountains or fled by air, their command structure destroyed, their war golem defeated. The Titans, though wounded, stood victorious alongside the humans. The battlefield was a mixture of smoke, fire, shattered machines, and debris, but also hope. Lieutenant Marcus Hale and Sergeant Alina Ruiz walked through the aftermath, watching humans and Titans alike survey the ruins. "We did it," Marcus said quietly. "We stopped them, but it wasn't just Kong or Godzilla who won this fight." Alina smiled faintly. "No, it was all of us, humans and Titans together. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us unstoppable." Kong, battered and tired, roared one last time, shaking the mountains. Godzilla submerged into the ocean, letting out a low, rumbling growl. It was a sound that told every creature on Earth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Back at the command center, Dr. Greaves addressed the leaders. "We've learned something important," he said. "Brains, courage, and coordination can defeat even the strongest enemies. Humanity can survive anything, even orc invasions. And we have allies in Kong and Godzilla, but it's our spirit, our will to fight, that truly saves us." Across the globe, people began to rebuild. Stories spread of human courage, ingenuity, and determination. Small acts of bravery, rescuing civilians, guiding Titans, disabling magical devices, became legendary. Humanity had proven that even against monstrous enemies, intelligence and courage were unmatched. In a quiet moment, Lieutenant Hale stood on a hill overlooking the battlefield. Fire still burned in some areas, smoke drifting across the canyon, but he felt hope. "We survived," he said softly, "and we'll be ready if they ever come back, because we're human, and that's something no enemy can overcome." Sergeant Ruiz joined him, looking out at the horizon. And next time they'll know the truth. Humans fight smart, humans fight brave, and humans will never back down. The sun set, casting a golden glow over the city and the battlefield. The Orcs had been defeated, but the war had taught humanity an essential lesson. No matter how powerful the enemy, courage, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome any obstacle. And with Kong and Godzilla as allies, humanity had shown the universe that Earth was not defenseless. Even in the darkest moments, humans had risen, proving their resilience, creativity, and unyielding spirit. The Orcs had underestimated them, but the humans, working together with the Titans, had turned the impossible into victory. As night fell, the stars shone brightly over the city. Somewhere in the distance, a small child looked up at the sky, imagining the giants and the battles they had fought. And somewhere in the mountains, Kong roared softly, a guardian watching over the planet he had fought to protect. And deep in the ocean, Godzilla's eyes glowed, sensing the calm, but knowing the humans had allies who would always stand, fight, and rise to protect their world. Humanity had survived the invasion. Humanity had fought back. And humanity had shown the universe that their spirit was a force no enemy could ever defeat. The war was over, but the legend of humans and titans had only begun. And Earth, for the first time in history, knew it was truly defended by courage, intelligence, and heart.